There we go. Hello, it's me, John. A little bit of an unconventional video I'm making today. It's less of a sort of entertainment thing and more just something I want to get off my chest. And let me just check. That's recording. It is. Okay, good. Because I sort of I want to vent, and I don't really have a better outlet to vent at the moment. I feel like a lot of the issues I have in my life are just stemming from negativity that I've sort of kept bottled up inside me instead of finding an appropriate outlet for it. And in the recent weeks, I've had that sort of confirmed to me by professional opinion when I've been to see a therapist who's essentially told me as much. And I said, when I have these experiences that I can't let go of, it's better to talk to someone about it, But I saw my therapist earlier this week. I don't have another appointment until next week, and it's not cheap going to private therapy. In terms of family and friends and things like that, you sort of feel like a hindrance at a certain point when you're using the same person as a shoulder to cry on about, everything that goes on. And it's not to say that I don't have a good support network, but it's more to say that at a certain point, I don't want to feel like I'm becoming a burden on anyone. So I felt this would be a constructive way where I can let something out that is bothering me and has affected me. And I can feel sort of, relieved of that weight on my chest, if that makes sense, without having to drag someone else down. So that felt like a positive move. So that's what I've decided to do. Enough of the sort of preamble. So just to let you know what the issue I'm dealing with at the moment is. So I was in Tesco. This was 3 days ago now. 3 days in about 52 minutes. I was doing my shopping in Tesco. And I'm a quiet person. I like to keep to myself for the most part, and so when I go to Tesco, I'll use the self-checkout because I just prefer it that way. I don't really like having to interact with the staff at Tesco, and I don't mean that as a personal slight. If anyone watching this works at Tesco or a similar store, I respect you for doing your job, especially over the last couple of years. It's not an easy thing to do. By no means am I making light of that. I'm just more saying that personally I feel more comfortable using the self-checkout and not having that level of sort of interaction with a stranger. I can keep my headphones on and just go about my day. And there's also the factor that a lot of the time I'm using my Tesco club card and I'm redeeming sort of coupons or vouchers or something. And you have to scan those in, which is a problem I have with the Tesco. If we can take a step back a moment, just in the Tesco Club Card app in general, it's a good app, it's a good scheme, but the problem is you scan the QR code for your club card, and then if there's individual sort of vouchers or coupons that you want to use, you need to scan them individually. Now, I think what would work better is if before I went to the checkout in Tesco, let's say I could activate a voucher I wanted to use. So in this instance, it was a £5 voucher and a £2 voucher, just for money off any product. It wasn't specific, like a coupon for one thing, but it was just an accumulation of my club card points from previous months. And I really feel if I was just able to select both of those and then do one scan of the club card, that would save me time, and it would make me more willing to want to use one of the manned checkouts or womaned test. You get what I'm saying. One of the checkouts with a person there, just because. Then I only need to scan the QR thing once and it's not embarrassing. Whereas if I'm scanning it multiple times, like they know that I'm using vouchers and getting a discount. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like they work for Tesco, they're going to expect that some of the people shopping there are going to be using the discount vouchers when they're at the checkout. But for me personally, it's something that gives me a lot of sort of anxious feelings, and it might come from a place of paranoia more than any realistic standard that I'm being held to by the Tesco's employees. I can understand that, but it's uncomfortable and I don't enjoy it. And that's one of the reasons why I prefer to use the self-checkout. So in this instance, I had done my shopping and I didn't have a tremendous amount of shopping, but I did have a trolley. But for me, the trolley is just it's a more utilitarian way of carrying your shopping around the Tesco than a basket. Even if I'm not buying that much, I will usually go in there and get a trolley. And the reason for that is if you're holding it all in a basket, even if it all fits within the basket, it can be quite heavy. Now, I don't drive, so once I'm done at the Tesco, I'm walking all my shopping back to my place. So there's a prolonged period of time where I'm going to be having to carry all of the shopping in bags. I have a big blue IKEA bag I use. I put it on my shoulder. And I know I'm going to have to do that on the walk back. So I don't want to also be carrying it around with me in the Tesco because I'm sort of tiring my arm out a bit unnecessarily, if that makes sense. Because I can just use a trolley and you're just pushing it and getting the sort of ground to just do the work for you. So that's what I do, even if I'm not buying loads. And I want to be clear about this because I think it is an important distinction. I think it's okay to use the self-checkout at Tesco, even if you have a trolley, if the trolley's not too full. I think some people are just going to be judgmental of taking a trolley, regardless of how full it is, to the self-checkout. Because they're thinking, well, the self-checkout's meant to be for sort of quick purchases. You've gone in with a trolley, so clearly you knew you were going to do a lot of shopping, and then you're using the self-checkout, which really should be for people who are buying one or two things, or people who've got all of their shopping in a basket. But I don't think that's fair. I prefer using the trolley just for convenience and the amount of shopping I've done. I did less shopping in this trip to Tesco than some people with baskets probably. The trolley wasn't very full because, as I say, I've got to carry all of the shopping back with me to my house. I'm not driving it home, so I'm not doing a huge shop, I think the value of the shopping was around £20, so less than that with the vouchers. So it wasn't a huge amount of, I wasn't like stockpiling stuff. That's my point. So I feel like it's okay for me to use the trolley. There's room for a trolley in the self-checkout system, in the layout. You can pull a trolley up, scan your stuff in. It's not getting in people's way, not in this particular Tesco. So I do that with a clear conscience, all right? And I do that. I feel guilt-free about it. But I feel I am judged for it by other patrons of the shop. And usually I would put that down to my own sort of paranoia as previously discussed. But I actually had it confirmed for me in a recent instance, which is the one I'm talking about, which is when I was going to the self-checkout. So there's, I believe, 8 self-checkouts. I think there's 4 on one side, 4 on the other side in the little section, the little self-checkout pig pen that they have. And one of them was available. And so there was a slight queue outside of the self-checkout entrance. So I was in the queue. I'm waiting for my turn. I'm sort of next up, right? So I'm next to go. So someone's just left. So there's one available self-checkout. So I'm clearly in the queue. And there was, I think, only 1 or 2 people. But there were people behind me in the queue. So it was clear that I wasn't just a man waiting for no reason, or I hadn't just pushed the trolley up there. It was a queue. It was a clear queue. And what happened is, as I was nearing the entrance to the sort of little section for the self-checkouts, someone who was just holding, I believe it was a Lucozade and some form of red chocolate bar. I don't feel comfortable saying what it was. I would say Kit Kat, but I don't know if there were any of. I'm not a chocolate person, so it may or may not have been a Kit Kat. I mean, it looks more like a sort of a Kit Kat's a flat, right? It was more of a traditional bar shape on it. But that's not incredibly relevant which chocolate bar it was. But it was also a Lucozade he had, and I did make note of that. But those are the 2 items he's gone to purchase. First of all, not my place to judge, but strange thing to go into this particular Tesco to buy it, because it's a big Tesco and it's sort of out of the way. You've got to go out of your way to go there. It's not just one in a town centre where you just wander into. To buy a chocolate bar and a Lucozade, odd, but I wouldn't begrudge him it. And he was using the self-checkout, and I think that's the correct thing to do in that circumstance. But what I take issue with is that this man cut in front of me when I was entering the self-checkout. Now, possible scenarios racing through my head as this is happening. Is he blind? Did he do it by accident? There was no indication that he was blind. I would guess that he wasn't blind because he was navigating the shop fine with no companion dog or walk stick or anyone else with him. It was just one man on his own. So I don't think he was blind, so far as I could tell. And that was my first thing. Is like, I don't want to be prejudiced about I'm going to come out and say it, the anger that I felt in that moment and still feel within me now. Did he not know that I was waiting to go into self-checkout? He did know, because as he was heading towards the free self-checkout, he looks at me with my trolley, and goes, "I'll just be one sec, mate," and just keeps going. Now, he didn't ask, "Can I cut ahead?" If he'd asked, "Can I cut ahead?" I probably still would be annoyed, but I probably would have said yes. Just for the, avoiding the whole confrontation aspect of it. I would have felt slighted, because it's like, well, there's not really much sense in you cutting ahead because it's a self-checkout system. So I'll go first, and then probably whilst I'm doing my stuff, one of the other available self-checkouts will become available to the next person. Now, maybe I would have objected to it because, as I mentioned, there was a queue for the self-checkout. So there were customers who'd been waiting behind me. So if he'd said, "Can I go?" I'd be like, well, there's a queue, But if it'd been in the queue behind me with only an unidentified chocolate bar of some sort and a Lucozade, would I have let him go ahead? Yeah, almost definitely, out of the sort of the social pressures of the situation. I imagine I would have. Because people have done that for me before when I've been in Aldi with only a small amount of shopping, and they've said, "Oh, do you want to go ahead?" because they've got a big thing. And I'm always very appreciative of it when they have let me do that. So, I'm the sort of person to pass that along to the next guy. I don't have a problem doing that. But it peeved me because he took that choice away from me when he cut past me and just took the self-checkout. And he didn't look back afterwards. He looked at me, he's like, just get these. Scans, pays. Didn't bear another thought. Didn't turn around and say, "Oh, thanks," as he goes. And it... Sorry, I'm... That's non-alcoholic beer. It's, it's difficult. Trying to... I'm having a bit of a difficult time. I'm trying to work on myself. And part of the way I'm doing that is through drinking nice, tasty, non-alcoholic beers. This is a Brooklyn Special Effects. Purchased it at Tesco, as it happens, on the day in question as part of a 4-pack. So, it tastes convincing. You can convince yourself it's beer. Sorry. Fuck. Okay. So I should explain that's a breathing exercise I've been taught for moments where you can feel sort of a physical manifestation of stress on your body. And what I've been taught is just take a deep breath and close your eyes and sort of just zero in on where that stress is. In me particularly, it feels like it's around the heart area. It feels very tense sometimes. And then just, you're drawing the stress up from your heart and just breathing it out. And you're relieving yourself of it. And I don't think that's scientifically sound. I don't think that's how that works with stress, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't make me feel better, That's what's important at the end of the day. So I felt pretty unseen. I felt pretty uncared about. I felt judged unfairly. I felt like it was not cool for that person to do that. I don't know if it was based purely on the fact I had a trolley and he assumed I was going to take a while. But I mean, the whole thing's ridiculous because when he went and he was scanning his chocolate and his Lucozade, one of the other self-checkouts became available whilst he was scanning, and I just went and used that. So if he hadn't cut me in the queue and I'd gone to the self-checkout that he ended up on, he would have had a self-checkout become available within a very short amount of time. So in that sense, it didn't matter that I was buying more shopping than he was, because, you know, the time it took him to scan his things was enough time for another one to be available. So say I'd been in the queue and I only had a Lucozade and a chocolate bar, and I'm not the sort of person to go out my way to a big Tesco to buy those things, but say that was the situation, then I would have gone in there and it wouldn't have been the first self-checkout available. So, you know, it's not like if you're at one of the manned checkouts and you jump in the line, because that's understandable, because there's a clear order. There's a person buying their shopping ahead of you, then there's the person loading their shopping up, and then it's like you know. So there's a hierarchy there that's going to be followed. The self-checkout, you've got to be cognizant of all of the different self-checkout stations and who's buying how much and stuff. So I feel to cut in there was not cool. And, you know, it bothered me. It did bother me. And that's why I thought I would talk about it, is because I've been dealing with it for a few days following that. And just sort of feeling, is it something about my demeanour and the way I look where I just, you know, I come across as like a submissive or like a weak person who you can just sort of trample over in a Tesco? Is it something about my energy that I'm giving off where people think, here comes the doormat, you know, here comes the little rug for me to wipe my shoes on? Yeah? That's not the sort of, I don't want people to fear me. I don't want people to look at me and like be intimidated, you know, when they're at Tesco. I just ask for a basic sort of human level of respect. And I don't think that's too much to ask. And I think I'm worth that. And I've had times in my life where I felt like I'm not worth that. But again, I've been seeing my therapist recently, and they've affirmed in me, you know, I'm a good person. And I tell myself that in the mirror. And I've been telling myself that a lot in the last few days, because I felt like a bad person after that. After that experience at Tesco, I felt bad. And I'll tell you why I felt bad. I felt bad because that man had cut me, you know, just like I was scum. Just like I was some real trash, you know. He cut me off. So I felt bad about, you know, my self-worth. And I felt bad about what was going on in here, you know, in my mind. You know, not just because I was upset that I'd let this, I want to call it a relatively trivial event, but I don't feel it is. So this is my point. To some people, this would be relatively trivial. You'd be like upset in the moment and then you'd move past it. But it means more than that to me. It meant a lot to me. It did deeply affect me. And so I was sort of annoyed at myself for letting it deeply affect me, even though I've got no power over that. But the main thing that I was really sort of disgusted by myself with is the judgment I then had to manifest in my own mind, and the sort of hatred and the anger that brought boiling to the surface. Because I've been having a fairly relaxed day up until that point. And, you know, I know it might sound sad, but doing my shopping at the big Tesco is one of the high points of my day, you know, because it's a simple activity. I can listen to some music whilst I'm doing it. I can feel relaxed. I can feel very zen. If I've managed to get some particularly good discounts, I'm happy about that. In this case, I had £7 worth of vouchers that I was getting off my shop. So there was no negative energy in that Tesco that I was detecting up until that. And it really, it sent me into a tailspin. And as a result of that, I became absolutely livid with the person who cut me off. And I made all sorts of horrible judgments about them, which I think it's important that I share, because I would share this sort of thing with my therapist, and I think if I'm going to let this go, I need to be honest about my feelings. So the person who cut me off in Tesco, first of all, was wearing sandals without socks on, so it wasn't like slides or like Crocs, which I wear sometimes. But let me point out to you that I'm in my own home, and I'm wearing Crocs. I'm wearing, I don't know if you can see, but I'm wearing socks inside of the Crocs. Why am I doing that? Well, it's warmer for one thing. I'm trying to save a bit of money on money. I'm saying, I'm getting muddled. Just I'm trying to save a bit of money on my energy bills, so it's warmer if I'm wearing socks in the Crocs. But also, I just don't like naked feet, even if I'm just in my flat by myself. And what you do in your own home is your business, and if you walk around your home barefoot, it's not the sort of life I want to live. But fair enough to you, as long as you're not sharing that with me, you can do that, that's fine. But to go out in public and be wearing sandals, to me is disgusting. It's only acceptable at the beach. It really is only acceptable at the beach. And it's not acceptable, certainly, in January, in the winter, in a big Tesco. And I did judge the man for it. And it raised more... So he drove to that Tesco because there's a big car park there. He wasn't just walking in, it's out of the way. You wouldn't walk all the way to the big Tesco in sandals for a chocolate bar of some sort and a Lucozade. You wouldn't do it. But why were you out in sandals anyway? Why were you out in sandals anyway? Or you just at your home wearing your sandals and you thought, I just really need a chocolate bar and a Lucozade. The closest shop to me somehow is this big Tesco. So I'll drive there and... Baffling stuff. So the sandals was a big point of contention for me, and that was the main thing. It's hard to be too angry about the rest of the appearance, because he was a guy in good shape, better shape than me, and sort of wearing a t-shirt and shorts. He was dressed for the wrong season, is what it was. But t-shirt and shorts, I would have been like, oh, maybe he just came from the gym. But sandals? Unless he was in the gym and his socks were all sweaty and he didn't want to put his socks back on, so he put sand. But I don't understand that, because he was wearing other clothes that didn't appear, sweat drenched or anything. So if he had been in the gym and he thought, okay, I'll bring shorts to change into, t-shirt to change into. I suppose any t-shirt can be a gym t-shirt, but they weren't gym shorts. They were sort of like, not cargo, sort of like chino style cut-offs around the knee is how I would... I mean, I didn't get to study them for a long time, they were burgundy. They look nice, I'm not hating on his fashion sense for the shorts and the t-shirt, but the sandals really threw me for a loop. It's like... and I started thinking, this is the sickest thing, I started thinking, I'm getting treated like this by someone wearing sandals in a big Tesco, That's who I'm beneath in the social hierarchy that I found myself in. I'm beneath the guy in sandals in January in Tesco. And that was a feeling that sunk down deep into my gut and has sort of just been gnawing away at me from the inside for several days. I hate that man. I still hate him. I was going to say hated, as in past tense, but I think I do still hate him. Because when I think about him, it makes me angry. And I think, well, what do I know about that man? I know he cut me off in Tesco, which was rude. And I know that he was wearing sandals to a big Tesco to buy a Lucozade and a chocolate bar. It's not my place to judge. It shouldn't be. And that's something I'm trying to work on. I'm trying to be less judgmental of others. And I find that I'm achieving positive results with that overall. But then someone will just go and just disrupt, my day. And it's just a chemical reaction in your brain, isn't it? I've not got control over it. I don't want to feel that way. I don't want to be thinking all these angry thoughts about this perfect stranger. But now I'm forced to, because that's the only information I've got about him. And it just builds up this awful caricature of this man in my head. and I've got to walk around and live with that. And he's got that power over me, and he probably never thought of me. Probably never in the moment thought of me. Probably could have been anyone there, and he would have cut in. Probably. I like to think it wasn't just me. I like to think it could have been anyone. And certainly once he left the Tesco, he would have paid no mind to me. Certainly. But you don't know that for sure, do you? And then that's where it sort of re-enters your head again, and you're like, was that a dare that someone put him up to? Or was he like, this would be so funny if I just treat this guy like shit? Maybe it amused him. Maybe that's how he gets his kicks. Some people do some strange things. I can't pretend to understand the motivation that drives a man to act that way, because I would never act that way. I've done some things wrong. I've made some mistakes. I haven't always been as considerate and kind as I'm trying to be at the moment. I've certainly I've wronged people, but I've never done that. And I can't put myself in the shoes or the sandals of someone who would do that. And where do I go from here? Well, I'm letting it out. I'm just going to try to occupy myself with some productive uses of my time. I've got some projects I'm working on. I've got a great book I'm reading at the moment. I might play on the PlayStation for a bit. Those are all things that I should be able to enjoy. In the comfort of my own home, I should be able to find solace in those things. And I can't try to suppress the thought of this incident in my mind, because it won't go away. But I'm hoping that by sharing it, you watching will do me the favour of just by paying attention, just by paying me a little bit of mind, you're just picking up a little bit of that weight for me. And if we split the weight up together, it shouldn't be too heavy for any one of us, And I believe that. I really do believe that. So I appreciate you hearing me out. I feel not better already, but I feel strangely, I feel bad. I'm going to come out and say it hasn't worked so far, but I think talking is a generally a positive thing to do. And I have no other option, What else is it's not a criminal offence, Could I talk to the Tesco staff about it? That's just putting a more difficult... Why would I punish myself like that? Because then I've got to interact with the Tesco staff. And if I was going to do it, I should have done it in the moment. He pushed in, I should have said. But that's creating unnecessary drama and tension. But maybe I should have let it out right then, instead of letting it settle inside of me, I can't... It's too late to complain. If I go back into the Tesco now and I say, 3 days ago, someone cut me in the line, what are they going to do? They're unlikely to check the CCTV footage for him. I'll tell you that. And even if they did do it, who's to say that they're even going to act upon that? I don't work for Tesco. I don't know what their policy is on just banning people for being a little bit rude. Would that Tesco be a better place for everyone without people like that there? Yes. 1,000 times yes. Absolutely it would. But I don't have that power. Oh, it kills me, but I don't have that power. I don't have the power of a Tesco manager, I have no power at all. I have nothing. I have no recourse here. And that's what really boils my blood about it. So I can't, there's no formal action for me to take in this situation. So I keep banging my hand on this thing and this shoe rack, and I'm just like, I'm at the point, I'm not a violent person, physically violent. I'm not, but I just want to I wish I had a punching bag or something, and I would just put some shorts on it, some nice chino, some burgundy chino shorts, and some sandals underneath it, and just punch, and just like that, just until I was tired, and just scream, and just hit the punching bag and just let it out, and I could probably do that for hours. But I don't have a punching bag, and obviously if I punch the wall or something, there goes my deposit. And then what? Then I'm letting the guy live rent-free in my head, and I'm not even getting my deposit back for security because I haven't kept the place secure. If I punched a freaking hole in the wall, and that's not fair on my landlord, you know, and I can't let this guy derail my life so badly, you know. I've got a credit score to think about here, you know. So I think it's time to try to navigate onwards past this episode. I've said my piece, and just finally a plea. If you're out there and you're the individual in question, you were at the big Tesco in North Shields a few days ago, you were wearing sandals, you bought a chocolate bar and a Lucozade, you know, there can't be many people that description applies to. The problem is it's not specific enough criteria for me to identify someone by it, unless they do it again, unless I see him again. And maybe I will see him again. And if I do, and he's wearing the same clothes, or even just the sandals, I would recognise him. But I'm unlikely to see him again. So, if you're watching this and you are that person, and you have self-identified that this was about you, using the criteria I've given there, I just want you to think about your actions before you hurt somebody else, okay? I don't want anyone to get hurt here. I'm not going to hurt anyone. I haven't hurt anyone. You hurt me. And you probably were too selfish to even realise. Use this as an opportunity for growth. I've been selfish. I've hurt people. But I'm growing. You have a lot of growth to do. I can put you in contact with a therapist. If you leave a comment on the video, if this was you, I will get you contact with my therapist. And maybe they can help you the way that they're helping me, yeah? Okay, so that's my sort of call to arms if that person's watching. Or if you're watching and you know someone who you think that might have been, you know? Or maybe even if it wasn't the person in this specific story, but you know someone who would do that or who has done that, maybe try to be a force for good, you know? Some people have difficulty changing their ways. Some people can't do it on their own, and they need good, honest people like us, like me and you, to just give them a little gentle nudge in the right direction. So stew on that, act on that if you wish. I'm gonna, I think yoga is calling me. I've got a yoga mat. I've had a yoga mat for 6.5 months. Haven't even unfurled it. And I'm starting to think it's time to take that step in my life. So, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.